Hello everyone, welcome to Malim Chess Kids. Today we'll show you the game played by Aras and Alicja. And this game we have a very beautiful sacrifice at the move 26. And here the white win with a very beautiful checkmate idea. And let's see how the game play. The game play with the pawn to d4, knight f6, c4, c5. And here after this, the white play d5. And in this position, you have white is slightly better in this position. And now the black play b5, and then the c just capture, and then a6. And in this variation you have the Benko Gambit, and after this just the pawn a6, then the black just play g6. And in this position the white is better with winning 2 pawn. And if the rook capture the pawn, then the white will continue to play e4, a strong pawn in the center, and the bishop will able to move freely and attack the rook at a6. And if the rook back to the original position, then the white can just continue to develop. And here you have a very strong 2 pawn in the center of the square, and the white is clearly better in this position. So after this position, the better way to play will be e6 to attack the pawn, and the knight will attack the pawn as well. Therefore the bishop can attack the pawn at a6 and prevent the pawn to push up. And if the pawn push to a4, it will just capture the bishop at f1. So in the actual game, g6 was played, and now the knight to f3, and the black continue to develop bishop to g7, and this is really the critical path to move for the castling of the black, and also able to go to e5 position. Then the game continue with pawn to e4, and the black go for castling, and then e5 from the white, and now the knight goes to knight e8, and here the bishop is attacking the pawn. After this, the white play h4, trying to attack with the h file, and now the bishop just capture the free pawn, and the position to become slightly equal. After this, bishop h6 was released to attack the rook, and now the knight to g7 to prevent the attack. And here is the first 10 move, and you can see that the white still slightly better in this position. And back to this position, if you capture with the bishop takes a6, then the bishop will capture the rook, and now after king capture, then the white will attack with the h5 pawn to attack the position. And if the pawn capture, then the queen will capture and will be winning the pawn h7, and will go for the checkmate. So therefore the black need to protect the structure of the black. King the knight g7 was played, and the game continued with the white storm with the h pawn at h5. And now if you capture the pawn, let's say the g takes h5, then the white will become better because the white can just use the rook and capture the pawn, and this will be the sacrifice from the white. So after capture, and if you capture with the knight, then the queen will capture and preparing for the deadly checkmate. So if now you run away the rook to e8, then a simple checkmate will be queen just capture the bishop and goes to g7 checkmate. So example, queen takes e5, and now if you block the diagonal, then the queen can just back to g3 and goes to g7 checkmate. So queen to g3, and now king to h8, then the queen to g7 checkmate. Back to this position, and if you run away the bishop, for example, if you run the bishop to h8, then the queen will just go to g5, and now if the bishop block, then you just use the queen to capture and checkmate. Same, another example, if your bishop goes to d7, the queen will come to here and the bishop is pinned and cannot be moved, and any move from the back will not prevent the queen capture g7 and checkmate. For example, after knight capture a6, then the queen will just capture and it will be a checkmate. And back to the version, then the other way for the bishop to run, if you just move to f6, then the bishop will just continue to play a rook to the bishop to d3, and this bishop is a strong move and will attack the pawn at h7 and check the king. So if you make now as example move like use the knight to capture the pawn, then the queen can go to queen f5, and here will be a direct checkmate. So queen to f5, and now any move from the black such as bishop takes and check, then you can just capture with the pawn, or we just move the king away to king f1, and this checkmate cannot be avoided by the king, the black king. So if the bishop just capture again, then the queen will just capture f7 checkmate. So you have many ideas to checkmate with the pawn sacrifice at h7. And in the actual game, after h5, the black play queen to b6, and this queen will able to capture the pawn and capture the knight and check the king, and also this queen will able to protect the pawn at g6. And after this, the queen goes to d2, and here the queen is protecting the pawn and also keep on the pressure to attack the king side of the black. And now the black is still under the pressure, and after this position, d6 was played, and now the pawn h takes g5 will be winning, and here the bishop to f6, and if you capture with the pawn at h6, then the pawn will just capture, and if you use the f pawn to capture, then the knight will just capture the bishop, and after the pawn capture, then you have bishop takes the knight, and now the king capture. Then the queen will come to h6 and check. And now if the king move to f7, then the queen will just capture the pawn and will be in the decisive advantage. And after king goes to e8, then the white will go for long castling and will be winning in the position. So after bishop f6, knight f5, knight g5 was played, and now the white keep on the pieces moving out and to attack the king. And here the black just capture the pawn at a6, and after this the pawn h takes g6 and keep on the attack, and now the pawn takes the h6 pawn. And here is the first 50 move, and you can see that the white is clearly better in the position, and the white continue to make aggressive attacks such as bishop takes the bishop, and now the knight capture again. And after this, the white is clearly better. If you use the rook to capture, and it will be a mistake because the knight will goes to h7 and attack the rook, and also will attack the bishop. And if the bishop goes to d4, the knight will just capture. And after king capture, then the bishop just goes to e3 and will be slightly better in the position. So after knight takes a6, here comes the brilliant move, knight to h7 and attack. And if you use the king to capture, then it will be mate in 3. For example, the bishop, you just capture the knight and you have the open check with the rook. So after bishop capture and the king, if you capture the bishop, then the queen will go to h6 and check the king. And after this, king to g8, then you have a queen to h7 checkmate. So this will be a very beautiful sacrifice. And again, after capture the knight, and if you don't want to capture the bishop, you just back to g8. The continuation will be the rook, sacrifice rook to h8 check, and now you force the king to capture the bishop. And after capture the bishop, then you have a queen to h6 and check the king, and you'll be a checkmate as the king cannot be moved to anywhere. So this knight to h7 is the one of the first brilliant sacrifice from the white, and the continuation that the black move the rook to f to e8, and after this the knight just capture the pawn, capture the bishop, knight takes f6 check, and the e takes f6, and now the king just move to f1 to avoid the open check. And now after this, f5 was played, and then the bishop to g5 to prepare the bishop to f6 and attack the knight, and allow the queen to go to h6 and checkmate at the h8 position. And after this, f4 was played, and this is the first 20 move, and you can see that the black is being pawn structure is very bad, and the white has many ways to attack the black. And the game continues with the bishop to h6, keep on the pressure. And after this, queen to b4 was played, and now queen to d3, sacrificing another pawn, and this will allow the queen to goes to d3 and checkmate the king. And in this game, if you capture with the pawn with the queen, Then the game you use the rook to attack the queen. And now if the queen move away, such as queen to a3, then you have a checkmate with the rook sacrifice. And now after king capture, then the queen will come to h3 and check the king. Then if you back to g8, then the queen will come to h6 and capture the knight, and it will be a checkmate, and this checkmate cannot be avoided. So queen to h6, and if the white move away the knight, then you have a queen to h8 and you have a back rank checkmate. So after this, f3 was played, and now the queen just captured the pawn, and also with the idea of rook to h8 checkmate. And now after this, the black just captured the pawn, and here the rook to b1 to attack the queen and threaten to make with the rook to h8. And now the queen just goes to d2 and keep on the attack, and now the rook just goes to d1 to attack the queen again, and then the queen to c2, and after this you will have a mate in 9 with the rook. So this will be the second sacrifice from the white with the rook to h8 and check the king. So after check the king has nothing to block the check and need to capture the rook. And after capture the rook, now the queen to h3 and continue to check the king. And the king move to g8, and now after this the queen come to h6 and will be attack the knight, and this will be a winning move. So after queen to h6, and in this position at the move 28, the black resign the game. And if you to continue the game, for example, the queen takes the rook, then you can just use the knight to capture again. And now if the rook to check, you just use the king to capture again, and the rook to check, then you just move to king d2, and after rook to e2 check, you just use the king to capture, and now the knight to f5, and you have the back rank checkmate with the queen at queen to h8 and checkmate the king. And with this, thank you.